Shut up and sit down.
Long time no see. No one asked us fans. We are
We have fans.
less than I would hope so. We're about 24 hours removed from our Illini postgame show following the Michigan State game. Illinois won that one 79-74. So if you want to hear our thoughts on that, go check out our postgame show, as with all our postgame shows. So like we said last week, we're going to cut down on our Illini content on these episodes. Go to the postgame shows if you want to hear that. But I'm Craig Choate. That is Logan Lee. This is another episode of No One Asked Us. This is episode 55. And Logan, I don't know if you know this, but this is the 1 year anniversary week.
I know. I was just going to mention it. Yep. It was on the 22nd of February.
That's when it was released.
We launched the first episode of No One Asked Us.
Yeah. It was released on the 22nd. I believe at that point we were recording the night before. So I believe we would have recorded on the 21st. It is February 20th today, Sunday, while we're recording, about 2:30 in the afternoon Eastern time. So we've been at this for a year.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. That's been, oh man, you know what? I didn't really think we would do much reminiscing in this, but like, it was literally just you and I just texting back and forth a lot about whatever, about Illinois basketball or baseball or movies or whatever. I mean, that just kind of blossomed into, do you want to do a podcast?
Yeah,
and,
I mean, we talked about starting one for probably more than a year before we did it. But I was still in TV and doing it was tough to fit in my schedule. But it was one of those things where I had been out of TV for a year and I wanted to like get a decent setup, like get a light and get a mic, and then I finally did that. And we're just like, hey, Illinois is on a run here. Let's start it so we can talk about stuff.
It was a good time to start it. It really was.
Yeah, so we've been at this for a year now. This is episode 55, which is, I know, more than one a week, but we had a couple emergency pods and different specials that we wanted to talk about to add those to it. But for those that have tuned in and listened, we do really appreciate it because, like I said, it was just an idea for me and Logan. And it's in our Twitter descriptions. This is a place for us to talk about sports away from our girlfriends. That's really what it is. A place for us to unload all of our sports thoughts. So we're not annoying Allison and Christy with all of our sports and everything. But we do appreciate you guys tuning in and consuming the content however you are. If you're on the Spotify or Apple getting a podcast, or if you're watching on YouTube, we really do appreciate it. And we hope to continue to grow this thing and get more listeners and more viewers. So if you are watching this, please give us a like and a subscribe. That's one way to help us get on people's recommended pages. If you give us a like and give us a subscribe, that would really help us to get out there a little bit more and more people hear what we have to say. Apple and Spotify, wherever you're listening, rate and review us as well. That would also help. So we appreciate that. For those
a subscribe and a like would be an excellent first year anniversary gift. If you're wondering what to get us, that would be the answer.
That is true. If we could ask for one thing for our 1 year anniversary, me and Logan, we want a like and a subscribe. For those that haven't tuned in before, we do have chapters in the descriptions. If you want to skip to something specific, those are a real easy way to do it. Just click on the time code in YouTube and I'll take you right to it. So there's that. There's some house cleaning stuff, some reminiscing over the last year. Before we move on though, is there a moment or a show that you like better than, or something we did on here that you like more than the everyday stuff we do? I just thought of this. I don't have one off the top of my head, so it might take some thinking.
Well,
for me.
I mean, a lot of our shows kind of run together. I mean, we've talked mostly Illinois sports. Up to this point, we still have only had 2 guests on our show. That may be changing today. But I mean, honestly, and it wasn't for a very good reason that we did the show, but the post-trade deadline emergency pod after the Cubs shipped out their entire fitting that we're both wearing all of our baseball gear today because we're excited for spring training that's not happening. But like, that was just a frustrating day for me to sit there at work and just like see these things happening. And so to be able to like text you and say, hey, can we do a pod? I got some things I need to say. Like, that was just kind of like, again, like it wasn't our most listened to show or anything. But it was just kind of like, I now have a place that I can say these things, usually it would be either me putting a few words on Twitter or venting to somebody else that probably doesn't care about it. But just having a place that I could just get in front of a microphone and just talk for 30 minutes about how miserable that whole time was kind of nice. It was kind of nice to have that. And I know we did the same thing for the Cardinals for you when they fired Mike Schilt. I don't know that was as much of a relieving type of experience for you. That was more just breaking news that we needed to talk about. But that's the one that kind of sticks out to me, because I think that honestly, that kind of changed it up for us a little bit. I think from then on, we kind of realized, yes, we do these podcasts as these hour and a half long mixed bag of topics where you and I are just talking about things that we want to talk about. But when we actually did a show that was shorter, that was condensed to one particular topic, we kind of realized, people actually, especially on YouTube, that people would actually, listen to that type of stuff. And it kind of made a lot more sense. I mean, that's not, we've still continued to do the podcast as it is, just talking about a lot of different things. But, I think that kind of changed the way we thought about some things too. So that's probably the first one that comes to my mind. Do you have one for that you thought of in this whole time?
Not really. Because like you said, all of our shows are very similar. Like we don't do like segments or anything. I remember one time we did the burger bracket, the fast food burger bracket. Yeah. That was fun. Didn't really garner that much, but like we've had to reminisce on some people, losing Jim Cotter and losing Bobby Roundtree. So it was nice to have this platform to talk about them a little bit. I've enjoyed the post-game shows, like you said.
Right.
We've done 12 post-game shows, and each one seems to get more and more clicks and more views. So we appreciate that, and we continue to want to do that. So, sorry, just got a text. And I was very confused. So yeah, I mean, it's just been a fun year. Wish we would have had more Illini basketball content last year. Like we started it, they were on this run, and then they bow out early, and we're just kind of like, oh gosh, like what are we gonna do now? But anyways, thanks for listening for a year. We'll move on to this week's episode, and we'll start how we always do, moment of the week. Go for
it. Shout out Cameron Lee, the new high school football coach at Oakwood High School.
Yes, I'm glad you're doing that, because I meant to put it on the rundown, or I was going to surprise you with it at the end of the show or at some point, but I'm glad you're mentioning it. Okay, good.
So my brother Cameron was just named the head football coach at Oakwood this week. Something that had been kind of in the works for a little while that he had been talking about. And after Al Craig, who had been there for a few years, decided to step down, Cameron wanted to take advantage of it. And he was an assistant on the team a couple years ago for 2 or 3 years. Stepped away during the COVID year because he was having a kid, and with his full-time job and everything, just wanted to kind of get away from it, but really wants to get into coaching. And I mean, for those of you that don't know, my brother did have, played at Illinois State and then had a couple year-long stint bouncing around a few NFL teams. So more football playing experience than anybody you're going to come around in Central Illinois. So for the most part. So that, that's pretty cool that he's going to be able to do that. So I know he's very excited. He's a busy man. I think about myself all the time, how I don't feel like I have enough time in the day to do the stuff that I want to do, but for what he's tackling, full-time job, side job, now a third job, plus raising a family. They're expecting their second child here this year. So a lot going on there, but congratulations to him. Very cool. I've done a pretty good job of avoiding high school sports for quite a long time. I'll be honest, for the first, I'll say 25 years of my life, I was at high school sporting events all the time.
Yeah, same.
When I was growing up, my dad was a coach growing up at Oakwood and a couple other schools. So I was always going to those games, and then played sports, all the way. I didn't play in high school, but I was going to high school sporting events when I was in school. Then going back to my brother's games, when both of them were still playing at Oakwood, covering high school sports when I was in Carbondale. so, I mean, it was a trickle down, I wasn't going to as many by the time Parker was a senior, but really after he graduated, other than showing up on a random Friday night football game when I'm happy to be going home for the weekend, that's really been about the extent of it. So not that I'm going to make it back for every single game, but I'll have to stop avoiding it, I guess, like I have for the last, 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. I saw that on Twitter this week. And I thought that made all the sense in the world. It's perfect. Yeah. Perfect fit. So congrats to Cam. I remember running into him not long after his stint. I believe what was that football league?
The AAF.
The AAF. Yeah. He dabbled in that. And I ran into him not long after that at a high school basketball game that I was covering. And he came, I think I saw him in the stands, and he came down and chatted with me for a little bit while I was shooting highlights. And said that he was moving back to the area. He was, I think, done with football at that point. Yep. Also, I went to ISU when he was getting drafted, and I did a full sit down, like 15-minute interview with him, followed him around as he was training for the NFL draft, which is still on my YouTube. If you want to go check it out, it's on my YouTube page.
I've noticed that. I have seen that before. That was cool. That was just for him especially, but just for our family, that was just kind of a cool time, playing at Illinois State's one thing, but his sophomore years or junior year, whatever year they played in the national championship game. Yeah. So went down to Frisco, Texas to watch them get beat to North Dakota State. But to go down to that and then to follow him around for the next couple of years as a starter at Illinois State, saw him play at Iowa. Went to several Valley schools to see him play, went to North Dakota, and then to go through all the NFL stuff, went to the combine. He got to do that. So we were able to go there and watch, and he played an all-star game out in California.
How many NFL teams did he play for?
He signed originally with the Saints. Then he went to the Bengals, the Bears. He was on their practice roster that whole year, and then played a couple games at the end of the season. And then he went to the Ravens training camp and preseason. So 4 NFL teams, and then technically 2 of the AAF teams, I think. But then he decided it was done, and then that league folded shortly after that. So
he was ahead of the curve.
Yeah, he was ahead. He was ahead of it. Yeah. So, but very cool for him. Yeah, I know he's excited. I know the school's excited. The community's excited, and it'll be a lot of fun. So
I know that school means a lot to. School means a lot to your family, and your family spent a lot of time in that school. So I think it's a perfect fit. So happy for you guys. Mine moment this week, we don't talk about them a lot. We talked about SIU football weekly on this show, but we haven't touched on basketball this week or this basketball season. They're 15-13. So they're very middle of the road, but they did something on Saturday that I've never seen before. So they played at Indiana State, which is a game that me and Logan talked about going to. Remember that?
We did. I forgot about that. We
talked about going to that.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
With our buddy Lou Medina and Tyler Dixon, 4 SIU alums who keep in contact. We've started a group chat that day. We named it the Dog Pound. We didn't go. I didn't bring it up because I didn't want to pay and drive 3.5 hours to watch a middle of the pack MVC team. If you guys would have brought it up, I would have went along, but I wasn't going to bring it up because it's not on top of my priority list anymore. But they did win. They're on a 3-game winning streak. They had 2 players score their 1,000th point in the exact same game. Marcus Damas and Lance Jones each scored their 1,000th career point in the same game. I've never seen that before.
That's cool.
I mean, that's it. That's my moment.
No, that was really cool. I forgot about that. I did see that last night.
So they're both juniors, I believe. Although Damask missed like all of last year, so he would have a lot more if he hadn't gotten hurt. But those 2 have kind of been they're almost like the Trent Frazier of SIU, both of them. Right. They stayed through a coaching change and some bad times and all that stuff. So yeah, there was one other thing I want to mention, and it's kind of a sad and a downer. It's golf. Did you see the fire at Oakland Hills Country Club?
Yeah.
So Oakland Hills Country Club I think the clubhouse was built in 1922. It's outside of Detroit. It's in the suburbs of Detroit, Michigan. Just as soon as I saw the name, I knew the name because it is a famed golf course. They've hosted 9 majors, 6 US Opens, 3 PGA championships. They hosted a Ryder Cup. Their clubhouse suffered a massive fire and I think I saw a total loss. It was just devastating watching the videos and the pictures coming out of it, because there's a lot of golf history at that course. So that was tough to see. I think Wednesday or Thursday morning is when that came out. But yeah, those are my two moments. Not Oakland Hills really isn't a moment because it sucks, and I like to highlight the good stuff. But I just wanted to mention it before we get into our show. What's next? Question of the week. Question of the week. Last week we asked you, are you happy with the universal DH decision? And it kind of went how I thought. 70% yes, 30% no. That's right about what I thought it would be. I think more so people are happy with it than not. And I think both of us are in that camp as well. Correct?
Yeah. As I said last week, I think that as much of an NL traditionalist as I am, and somebody that does love the strategy involved with the pitchers batting and everything, I think it's time. I just think it's time. I think it's kind of ridiculous that we have two leagues to play by different rules. I think that's kind of bizarre. I thought that's always been bizarre. So yeah, I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the move. So
I agree.
I figured that's pretty much the results I expected.
Yep. Now if we can only get baseball players on the field to play, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. This week's question, we're going back to basketball. The NCAA selection committee released their top 16 teams, each top 4 seeds in each region, on Saturday during the Illinois game. Actually, it was like a 12:30 release.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that and dissect that more in the show here. But our question this week is, what seed does Illinois end up? And we're going to give you the options 1 or 2. So are they going to be a 1 or a 2? That's one option. Then 3 is their own option. 4 is their own option. And 5 or worse is the next option. We both kind of think 3 or 4 is most likely. So they're getting their own option here, and then the other 2. So we will talk about that in that segment of the show. So we'll move on past question of the week now into our rundown. We are going to start with Illinois basketball. We're going to review the week really quick. Like I said in the start of the show, we do post-game shows for every show that we can. I think we've missed 1 or 2, but we do post-game shows for every show we can. So if you want to hear our specific thoughts on those specific games or anything immediately following the game, go check those out. They're on our YouTube. They're on the same places that you're listening or watching to this show now. So we're just going to recap the week in general. It started on Wednesday with the loss at Rutgers. It was an 11-point loss that was more like a 20-point loss. It was Illinois made the fake rally late to get it down to 11. But then they rebound in East Lansing on Saturday for a 5-point win in which they held off a late Michigan State comeback. I will say first, before I toss it over to you, about 12 to 15 hours after that Rutgers game, I felt completely different than watching it. You know, we shut down the stream. We watched it together. After sitting in my anger for 12 hours and going to sleep and waking up and seeing some of the stats that came out. I don't know if you saw it specifically. There was one stat that said, based on the shots taken in that game, Illinois wins that game 92% of the time. They just weren't making their shots,
right?
Which I think we all knew. It was just like it was hard to stomach because we haven't seen that from Illinois. So the day after Thursday it was, I didn't feel as bad about Rutgers as I did Wednesday as it was happening. And then yesterday I was just so pleased with the response from the team that's one of the best wins of the year, I think. We talked about 3 weeks ago how they didn't have any marquee wins. Now they have 2 wins over Michigan State, win over Wisconsin, and they're building some of those. So I'm back to confident in this team. I still don't know that they're a Final Four national championship caliber team. A lot of people still think they are. I'm not sure that they're that, but I think they're an Elite Eight team. And if everything is clicking, a Final Four team. So that's where I'm at after this week. One tough to stomach loss, but one win that I can't find too many negatives to come out of.
Yeah, the Rutgers thing, I think the frustrating thing obviously was the fact that they weren't making shots. That was just so very uncharacteristic of this team. They have been one of the top 3-point shooting teams in the conference and in the country for a reason. So for them to come out and play like that against Rutgers, I think the thing that had me most concerned was that it was just a very alarming trend. It had been a rough 3 games. Yes, they did get a win out of those 3 games against Northwestern, but that game the second half was an absolute debacle. And they're fortunate that they had an 18-point lead. That's why they didn't lose that game too. So I think that was the issue for me. I wasn't really super concerned with the particular outcome of that game, primarily because of the shooting. And that's not something that's just not going to keep up consistently. I mean, they might still have another game like that in them, but this team is too good of a shooting team to have games like that. So for me, I think it was just more the trend of where the last few games had gone.
Yeah.
For how the Purdue game finished, how the Northwestern game finished, regardless, even if it was a win, and then for how the Rutgers game happened. I think for me, that was the part I was concerned about. But you're right. After another day or so, yeah, I was fine. It did suck because after that, now you're back in a 3-team race for the Big Ten. Not that it wasn't already a race, but had you won that game, you would have had a lead over Purdue in the standings. Now you're back to tied with everybody. At this point, best you can do is probably hope for a tie, which isn't the end of the world. I would certainly take a tie for first place in the Big Ten. But I think that was probably the most discouraging thing. So for them to fire back like they did against Michigan State was wonderful. That was nice to see. They had the fight in them again that they didn't have the last few nights for the most part. They were making shots, sort of. They had 3 guys do most of the scoring. And 2 of those kind of split their scoring. So got to see more consistency. As you said, I don't believe this is the Final Four team. I do think they have the potential if they have the right matchups and are playing well enough. And if you get the right situations where they're firing on all cylinders, yes, I do think they could make a Final Four, but I would not pick them for a Final Four. I think I think their ceiling realistically is probably Elite 8. And I think that's certainly on the table. But I'm not going to, I know they have been put in Final Four conversations by, people from around the country. I'm not really there on this team. They're good. I mean, they're certainly good. They're very well in a place to finish in at least a tie for first place in the Big Ten. Get a top 2 or 3 seed in the Big Ten tournament, and then go into the NCAA tournament with likely a 3 or 4 seed, potentially even higher. I think a 2 seed's not out of the question if they kind of run the table and win the Big Ten tournament championship again. I think a 2 is very much in play, but I think a 3 or 4 is probably more likely.
Yeah. After looking at the box score from Saturday, I think what I don't want to say validates Rutgers because I don't think that's the right word, but what makes the loss easier to stomach is literally no one was making shots. Trent made 3 threes, but that was at the end of the game. Saturday at Michigan State proved that just need one guy to be on because Trent didn't look great. He had 2 threes. Alfonso Plummer went 0 for 3, but Jake Grandiston went 6 for 10. So if you just have one of the 3 snipers hitting, this team is pretty good because as a team, they still shot less than 30% from 3, 29.6% from 3, 8 of 27. So they still weren't clicking, but they still won the game. So that's what I take away from this week.
This team has about 5 guys that can light you up. And if, depending on the matchup, if at least 2 of them are clicking, you're going to beat a halfway decent team. If you can get 3 of them clicking, you're in pretty good shape. I don't know that a lot of teams really have 5 options like that. I mean, I think obviously Kofi, the 3 sharpshooters, like you talked about, I think Curbelo is still in that mix, even though he hasn't really been around much, hasn't shown it much. He has shown that he can go off for 20-some points. So I don't think there are many teams in the country that have a luxury like that to have 5 guys that could really at any given point put up 20-some points in a game. Most teams don't have that. Illinois does.
Yep. And we were talking about ceilings and floors. I think the ceiling is a title game. I think this team can get there.
I do
because
too.
What wins in the NCAA tournament is veterans and guards, and that's what Illinois has. So if everything comes together, Illinois can win the national championship, get to the national championship game. We just haven't seen it yet. So I'll probably have Illinois a Sweet 16, a second weekend team, a Sweet 16 Elite Eight team right now as it stands.
Yeah.
Still 4 regular season games and the Big Ten. Yes, exactly. Next up is Ohio State, who lost at home to Iowa on Saturday following the Illinois win at sorry, my text thread here is blowing up with my friends watching the Wisconsin-Michigan game. They lost at Iowa Saturday. Pretty bad. I watched the end of it after we got done with our post-game show. But this one is at home. This one is in Champaign, 9:00 start. I've been saying it all year. Ohio State's good, and I shouldn't even say it because it's gonna come back to bite me in the ass. But I don't know that they pose that much of a threat to Illinois.
What's going on in this game?
I have no idea. I don't have it on.
I had it on and it was getting to be kind of a blowout, so I turned it off. And then after now I'm looking at it and like everybody's on the court and the security's out there, cops are out there, like something's happened here. So shaking hands.
I can't rewind either.
Shaking hand. Gard and Juwan. Oh, Juwan did not want to shake Gard's hand, and now they got into each other's face.
Okay.
And
live reaction here.
This is not live. I've seen the replay, but now their players were involved. Security was involved. So yeah, they were shaking hands. Oh man, that got ugly.
Did Howard throw a punch? Moly. Did Howard throw a punch? I just got a text that Howard threw a punch.
He did. I think he did.
Oh, this is awesome. Sorry for those that
he
that
went.
Are listening,
he went after somebody.
Oh my gosh, I need a replay.
Oh my goodness.
Jeremy Warner, Juwan is going to get suspended, and now many players are going to get suspended. Illinois plays Michigan Sunday.
Yeah. Whoops. Yeah, I turned this off because it was like 3 minutes left and it was like a 15-point game. So I had Daytona pre-race on, and then you bring that up, so I turn it over, and I happen to see now they're closing the doors. They don't want cameras to come down. They were just in the handshake line, and Gard went up to him. He was shaking all the players' hands, and Juwan didn't want to shake his hand, and then Gard got back in his face, and then all hell broke loose.
Juwan threw a punch and connected with someone.
Yeah.
Who is that?
It's an assistant coach, I think.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. That's something to keep an eye on for all our listeners and viewers. This is
I'm gonna watch this again. Sorry, we were talking about something else, but this kind of
well, like I said, my text thread or my group chat with my buddies was freaking out over the game. And like you said, I wasn't watching because it was a blowout. Yeah, Wisconsin won by 14.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That's why I had turned it off.
I mean, Juwan's
you can say it.
I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. The other night, I was watching the Michigan. I forgot who they were playing the other night. It was Iowa. I think it was the Michigan-Iowa game. And the ball was on the opposite end of the court that Michigan's bench was, but it got deflected and went down towards Michigan's bench, and it was close to the sideline. He wasn't in his coach's box, but he wasn't like on the court. He was kind of like straddling the sideline, and the ball was rolling towards him. He just reaches down and picks the ball up. It hadn't gone out of bounds yet, but he picked it up and tossed it to Connor McCaffrey, and McCaffrey grabs it and just looks at Howard, and Howard goes, oh my God. I was like, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing? And he got in a fight with Mark Turgeon a couple of years ago. I just don't think it's working there. I don't either. He might not survive this. You think? You think he loses his job? He just threw a punch.
I know. I mean, I don't know what happened. I don't have the sound up. I haven't heard anything. Now I'm watching the replay again. So yeah, they were just shaking hands, and I'm trying to watch this again. This is great content.
I know. Sorry, this is really not
we
good for our listeners.
Apologize for anybody that has already seen this happen, but we're kind of watching this as it's happening. So we are
That's a Wisconsin assistant. He punched a Wisconsin assistant.
Yeah. I want to watch the handshake line again. All right. So there you go. Gard's just shaking hands. Gets to Juwan. Juwan just walks right by him. And Gard says, nope. And then there's the coaches and the players. Juwan is pissed. And he punches, open fist punches a Wisconsin assistant.
March 12th of 2021. I remember something like this. March 12th of 2021. So almost a year ago, I tweeted, kick Juwan Howard out of the league, dirtbag.
Wow.
Almost a year ago.
Okay. All right. Let's keep going. What were you asking me? Was it about Ohio State or was it about Wisconsin or Michigan?
Okay. Back on track here. Juwan Howard throws a punch in the handshake line after they lose at Wisconsin, but we're talking with Ohio State here. They have EJ Liddell. They have a couple other pieces, but for the most part, all season, I haven't bought into Ohio State and just don't see them as threatening Illinois too much. Am I wrong there?
No, I don't think you're wrong. They do present a nightmare matchup for Illinois. They don't have anybody that's going to stop EJ Liddell. But that's kind of how it always is with him. I mean, I'm certainly not going to sit here and guarantee victory because that would be dumb. No, I don't really buy into them either as a long-term tournament type of threat. I don't think they have that much depth and talent. But anything could happen. This is the Big Ten. They have a Big Ten Player of the Year candidate, a National Player of the Year candidate, a first-team All-American, second-team All-American, whatever he's going to be on their roster, just like Michigan does, and just like Purdue has multiple of them. So they're good. I don't know. I think they'll end up being probably a 5 seed in the tournament when it's all said and done. They might end up being a 5 seed in the Big Ten tournament too. Is probably a likely scenario for them.
So the second game for Illinois, like we just said, we were reacting to the Juwan Howard stuff, is Michigan on Sunday. Michigan also has a midweek game. They play Rutgers on Wednesday. So I'm expecting a multiple game suspension for Juwan Howard. So he will likely be out. And from what I see, there's going to be player suspensions as well. So if those turn into multiple game suspensions, they're going to be out for the Illinois game. So we really can't talk too much about Illinois, Michigan, because we don't know who's going to be there. We don't know who is going to play for Michigan. So that game is happening on Sunday of next week, a week from today on CBS. But we don't know. So I don't know how much we even want to talk about that because there is a lot up in the air, right?
That game will happen. Who plays, who coaches, we have no idea.
All right. So we can move on to the bracket release that was Saturday afternoon. The NCAA Selection Committee, the group that does the bracket. This is not bracketologists. This isn't Joe Lenardi. This isn't Jerry Palm. This isn't Bracket Matrix. This is the group of people that will put the teams in the bracket on Selection Sunday, came out with their top 16 teams. And the 1 seeds, number 1 overall was Gonzaga, and then Auburn, Arizona, and Kansas. Now, Auburn lost yesterday, so they're dropping either to the other one of the other 1 seeds or to the 2 line.
Arizona almost lost too.
Arizona almost lost at home to Oregon. Yes. The other, I guess the 2 seeds then were Kentucky, Baylor, Purdue, and Duke.
The committee basically said that the Gonzaga, Auburn, and Arizona were essentially locks for the 1. And then Kansas, Kentucky, Baylor, Purdue, I think were even kind of in that mix for the last number 1 spot. But they said Kansas had the slight edge over the rest of them.
Yeah.
I don't know who'll be there by the end of the year. I think there's probably 7 to 8 teams that are probably in the mix for those 1 seeds. Probably. I don't think there's a clear top 4 at this point.
Yep. Then the 3 seeds went Villanova. I think Texas Tech might have been next. Then Tennessee. Then Illinois.
Correct.
For the 3s, and then the 4s. I don't remember the order. Wisconsin,
Wisconsin was Illinois, was after Illinois.
Yeah, Wisconsin, Providence, UCLA, and Texas. So Illinois was a 3 seed in the West. They would have had Gonzaga, Duke, Illinois, and Texas. The Midwest was Auburn, Purdue, Texas Tech, UCLA. The East was Kansas, Kentucky, Villanova, Wisconsin, and the South was Arizona, Baylor, Tennessee, and Providence, which Tennessee also lost yesterday. So they probably fell to the 4 line. If not, they probably only fell to the 4 line because it was a ranked loss to Arkansas. So there's your seeds. If the tournament was to start today, what's your reaction? Is that about what you thought?
Mostly, I would say. I probably would have guessed Illinois and Wisconsin would have been switched. I don't dislike it. I think that there's certainly a case for Illinois to be higher than Wisconsin, seeing how Illinois beat Wisconsin. But I don't know that it was, as I talked about in our show yesterday, there was a point where Wisconsin was like 2 or 3 seed lines higher than Illinois on a lot of bracketologist brackets. And I never understood that even before Illinois beat them. I didn't really understand that. I mean, yes, they have a better record against quad 1. But 3 of Illinois' quad 1 losses are to Purdue and Arizona, who are 2 of the best 5 or 6 teams in the whole country. So, no, I think it's a pretty straightforward 16. It shows that they're not buying totally into the metrics when you have Providence and Wisconsin up there, because Providence and Wisconsin are 2 teams that the metrics, both KenPom and the net, aren't really high on. But they both ended up in the top 16, which was to be expected. It should be about records. But yeah, I think was a pretty straightforward 1 through 16. You could certainly make an argument for a couple teams, but it's pretty much what I expected.
Yeah, Texas surprised me that they were 16.
Yes, that would be one.
I think I would have had Kentucky as the 4th one instead of Kansas.
Yeah.
Other than that, nothing really surprised me. Either. I thought Illinois would be a 4. I really did. I also had prepared for Illinois not to be included because they had just lost to Rutgers. I didn't know how much that says a lot.
Yeah, that says a lot for this. This came out after the Rutgers loss.
Yep.
And before the Michigan State win. This came out during the Michigan State game. So for them to still have Illinois high after Rutgers, before Michigan State, says quite a bit about how they feel about this Illinois team. So
they were the last 3 seed then, so they're above that now. They're probably 10 in the country now, as opposed to 12, because someone ahead of them lost.
Yeah, but nobody in front of them lost though. Auburn did, but Auburn's not.
That's true. So that's true. So they probably didn't fall. I was just going off the fact that they beat a ranked team, but no one above them lost.
They might move up in the AP rankings, but in terms of this, I don't know that much has changed between now and when this came out.
Yep. So this gives us a good base heading into postseason or the rest of the season where Illinois is now. So if they take care of business, they can only go up. But a good base here. We've got Greg Gard post-game comments. Greg Gard post-game to Andrew Catalan and Steve Lapis, and this is a condensed Gard quote from Matt Norlander on Twitter. Apparently, he didn't like that I called a timeout to reset the 10-second clock. I didn't want to put my backups in, I guess. I'll leave it at that, and the tape will show the rest. In essence, Gard was saying he wanted to reset the 10-second clock to get the ball past half court. Michigan was pressing UW backups when the game was decided. Gard called timeout to reset the clock and put his guys in a better spot. Howard got pissed. Then postgame happened. I still think that's a suspension. A lot of people are asking if it's worthy of a suspension, but I still think it's a no doubt suspension for Juwan Howard and probably a couple players because he did throw a literal punch.
Yes.
All right. Anything else college basketball? We're 3 weeks away from Selection Sunday.
2 weeks left in the season. 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks. 4 games left for Illinois. Just to kind of circle back to the Illinois stuff. We were kind of worried. I mean, not necessarily worried, but we knew that there was going to be a rough stretch to close out the year. But now that they've made it through that stretch, you split that Purdue Indiana series, or more or less week. You split the Rutgers Michigan State week. All of those were games on the road. 3 of their next 4 are at home. Granted, one of them is against Ohio State, who is a good team, but Iowa, yeah, they have Keegan Murray, and they did just beat Ohio State, but they don't exactly, they don't really worry me. Penn State certainly doesn't really worry me. Again, I'm not trying to speak too soon because they could certainly drop any of these. I wouldn't be shocked, but they made it through that stretch, and they're still have a share of the Big Ten title in their reach. So I like where they're at.
We're joined now by Robert Rosenthal from IlliniBoard.com. Follow him at @ALioni and also subscribe to IlliniBoard.com. Me and Robert go a couple years back. When I got to WCIA, we started collaborating on some stuff, so we know each other pretty well. And Robert was introduced to Logan Lee earlier this week. Logan gave him a little tip that he could go see Io in Cleveland for the Rising Stars game. So we have Robert on to talk about his week. Robert, this is our 1-year anniversary, by the way. We started our podcast 1 year ago, so we're having you on to help celebrate with us. But
you're big time. Thank you.
Yeah, you got any little cupcakes with a single candle in them or anything like that, or just?
We should have.
What is the?
We should have done more.
Is that paper? What is 1 year anniversary? Yeah.
Neither of us are there yet. We haven't hit that.
No.
We don't have the ring on our finger, so we're not sure.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll get into it. Logan tipped off Robert because Robert asked about you did like a podcast on the road, right? And asking questions.
Correct.
And Logan had a question for you. So I'll let you guys talk through that and how that went about.
So you had tweeted that. I knew you were at Rutgers and you had experienced that whole debacle. And then you made the comment about going to East Lansing. And then I saw your tweet. I saw the question or whatever. And then I started thinking to myself, like, if he's going to make that trip, he's probably going to go by Cleveland. And then I had to figure out, like, when was Illinois playing? Like, would this work? Like, is this even a stupid question to ask you? And then I looked it up. I'm like, that actually would be doable. I wonder if he's doing that. So that's when I asked you if you were going to stop in Cleveland to see Io. I realized after you said that you didn't realize it was the Rising Stars All-Star Weekend game.
Right.
But, I just kind of threw that out there, and sounds like it worked out for you.
It really did, and I'll take you through the whole thing. So my original plan for the trip was just to make Thursday a driving day. So I was going to go – so I basically drove 2 Rutgers in 2 days just because I didn't want to do 12, 13 hours in one day. I didn't want to get up Wednesday morning and see it was 6 o'clock Central game or 7 o'clock Eastern, but so I would have had to leave at like 4:30 in the morning to do it in one day. So I just didn't want to do that. So I did it in 2 days, stayed in Pittsburgh the first night, drove the rest the second night. While I was in Pittsburgh, I saw the weather forecast for Champaign and that storm was headed up toward Michigan, like headed toward Toledo, basically, right on the Michigan-Ohio border. And so I'm looking at the forecast and I'm like, if I'm driving in one day on Thursday from Piscataway to East Lansing, I'm going to be getting there early to late evening, and I'm going to be right in the teeth of the storm as it's rolling through. So I'm like, okay, well, I better switch up my trip. So I'm like, okay, what's halfway? What's a decent drive? I'll drive a chunk of it. So I started to look at, like, where's the rain snow line with the storm? And it was right at Cleveland, basically. And so I'm like, that's it. I'll stay in Cleveland. That's easy enough. So I changed my hotel. I canceled one night in East Lansing and changed my hotel to Cleveland for Thursday night. I'm like, okay, there's my drive. So I have that set up, and then I'm literally doing the questions live. I'm not rereading them. I'm just reading them while I'm recording the podcast as I'm driving. I see your question. I'm not an NBA guy, so I don't even know it's the All-Star break. I just go look at Io's box score every year. So I don't even know that. So if you listen to the podcast, when I get to that question, I'm like, oh wait, the Bulls are playing the Cavs. Like, I could go to that. I'm staying in Cleveland tomorrow night. Like, so I just the wheels started spinning. Then of course I look it up and I found out it's the Rising Stars game. And so then I completely changed all of my plans in that I could do that. And then it's about 3.5 to 4 hours from Cleveland to East Lansing. And the game was at noon Eastern. So I figured if I leave by 7 a.m., I could make that work. So I ended up not staying in East Lansing at all. I did 2 nights at the hotel in Cleveland. So I stayed there Thursday night. On Friday, I went to the game, went back to that same hotel, got up early Saturday, and drove all the way to East Lansing and made it there for the game. So, I went from planning 3 nights in East Lansing to 2 nights to 1 night, and then I just didn't stay in East Lansing at all. I thank you for that, because it got me to go see Io in the Rising Stars game.
I had no idea how tough of a ticket that would be when you had said that. I didn't know if I didn't know what the possibilities for that were when I tweeted it out. I was literally just throwing it out there just to see. I mean, I assume there were obviously tickets available.
Yeah, it was all, I did it at StubHub because it was sold out. It's interesting because they do. So basically, the reason it was 9:00 Eastern for that Rising Stars game, I guess it was 8:00 Central. The reason it was so late because they did the celebrity game first, and tickets were not good for both. So they did an entire crowd for the celebrity game. Okay. Then they cleared everybody out, and then even when you bought the ticket, it was like don't arrive until 8:30 for the 9:00 game because I think there were obviously I got there right at 8:30. There are obviously people who had tickets, maybe all session tickets kind of thing,
Right.
Mine was just a single session thing. So once they allowed the people in, I could go in there. So it was easy enough on StubHub to just grab a ticket. I mean, the only thing was, I'll let you guys guess. How much parking was downtown Cleveland for the All-Star for that? Downtown Cleveland.
Oh, for
I parked
Friday.
in a garage like 5 blocks away.
$80.
I was gonna say 75.
$60. Good. I got a deal according to you guys.
Yeah. Friday night probably would be if you were going tonight, obviously.
Oh my God.
With the All-Star game being tonight, and even Saturday with the Saturday night stuff they do, but that's still that's pretty incredible that you were able to do that. You haven't seen him play since he left Champaign then, right?
I have not. Like when I say I'm not an NBA guy, like when I watch this game, I watch this thing and it's only college. That's all. Like I'm seeing guys. I'm like, oh yeah, he was at TCU. That's my only connection to the Rising Stars game is where these guys played in college. I just, if you lined up all their names and said what team is he with, I would get 3 of them correct. Yeah. But it was so much fun. Like I said on Twitter when I was there, I was embarrassing because I'm sitting there with my camera up.
It was cool.
Like a sports parent. As I joked on Twitter when he went over to greet DeMar DeRozan, and I later found out that Zach LaVine was sitting next to him. Yeah. My emotion is that of a mom in the stands. I'm like, oh, his friends are here. That is so neat that they came to watch him play. I'll get them together after the game and we'll take pictures. That was my entire vibe the entire night. But it was fun, man. That's our boy.
That's cool.
And he's there, and he's, it was just a lot of fun to see him on that stage.
Brian
That's
Randall,
what I wanted
too.
Yeah.
Brian Randall.
That's correct. Yes, as the coach of the other team.
Yeah. That's what I wanted to ask you about was, we're seeing the success that Io's having. And I know none of us here are recruiting gurus by any means, but how big is what he's doing with the Bulls right now and in the NBA? How big is it for what Brad Underwood can sell?
I think it's very big, mostly because he wasn't a 5-star and he didn't make the McDonald's All-American game. And then he went in the second round. I think that is the whole pitch that Underwood has, which is, hey, look, this guy, we took him, he's number 32 in the composite rankings, and he was a first-team All-American here. And, people are going to wake up now as good as he's been in the NBA. The next Illinois player isn't going to go in the second round because people are going to say, hey, that program has something, to be able to sell that, look, everybody's overlooking you. You should be a 5-star. Io should have been a 5-star. He's a first-team All-American. He should have been a lottery pick. You can sell that. People are disrespecting you and we can help you prove it kind of thing. And so, that's what his whole career has been. He should have been a McDonald's All-American. He should have been a top 20 player. He played like that, and he should have been a lottery pick. He just keeps proving it to people.
Yeah. Me and Logan recorded the rest of this episode before you hopped on here. So for those listening, we are going to kind of overlap here behind the scenes podcast stuff. That's what I just told Logan before you hopped on was it might be me fanboying and my bias, but I feel like if he's successful, he's got a movie script kind of life, like not leaving the state of Illinois, turning Illinois around, falling in the draft and going to his hometown Chicago team. I just feel like if he continues to succeed, that would be a pretty good script.
Yeah. Did you guys watch that? Did you see the video that, what's the guy from The Ringer, the NBA guy from The Ringer?
Yes.
Kevin O'Connor. Yeah, Kevin O'Connor.
Yeah. I mean, that was so good just for a complete outsider NBA guy.
Yep.
Not that he stumbled on the story, but, as he's putting this video together, he's like, oh my gosh, like this guy, like even if he never gets better than he is right now, has such a storied, he's going to have a 10-year career in the NBA and possibly at his hometown team after playing for his home state. Like it means a lot when other people completely disconnected that don't even follow college basketball find his story and make it known, NBA wide that, that's his story. And the story with him is also his family. Like they came to every game. You go to road games, they're, if I was still here, that family would have been in Piscataway at his game. Like they just didn't miss. And now they get to see him in his hometown, and he continues to prove people wrong. It's crazy. It's amazing.
Were they in Cleveland? Did you see him at all?
I don't. You know what? I don't know. I
would assume they were.
Yeah.
I would think so.
Yeah.
They had
his
all
friends were there
2020 and weren't able to travel, so take advantage of the opportunity this year.
Yeah, great point.
So this team that we're watching right now, obviously you have better seats than we do. We're watching through TV now. You're courtside. We've seen games like Rutgers, and then you see games like Saturday. I just feel like they're so far apart. Are we eventually in the next 4 games, are we going to narrow down to what this team is? Is it a matter of still incorporating Curbelo in there because he's missed so much time? Where are you at with this team? Because we've seen so many different types of games from them.
Yeah, the Rutgers game was the surprise because the effort wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest surprise, and even being there, I mean, part of it is sometimes in road games like this, and I'm thinking back to Illinois teams that would go 7-11 in the Big Ten or whatever. Once you get down and you make a little run and then they push back on that run, like there's some teams that are just like, hey man, let's get to the buzzer, like go through the motions. Rebounds aren't chased down. There's an effort element to things, and we've watched enough teams that, God bless them, the season's a losing season and they're kind of going through the motions and such like that. So to see it going through the motions second half from Illinois at Rutgers was a surprise. I mean, Unward talked about it. I mean, all this Pizza Hut stuff came from him saying, like, I didn't understand my team, and they wanted to get in a rumble, and we just kind of laid down for them. And I got to coach them better, and I got to have them more prepared because this is not my kind of team that would do that. So maybe maybe Rutgers was a good lesson of like effort is everything, and you've got to go at this very, very high rate because these teams in the tournament are going to be gunning for you just like last year. So maybe it was a good lesson, but I tend to maybe after that performance on Saturday throw out what we saw from at Rutgers, make it the burn the tape game where they learned their effort lesson. It really wasn't anything more than the shots weren't falling. They got discouraged and stopped chasing rebounds and loose balls, and it snowballed from there. And so, perhaps with that fixed, I mean, look, we started this game, 2 for 15 from 3 or whatever until Grandison got hot, or 2 for 12 until Grandison got hot. So it was, this was not a hot shooting game, but everything else was there, even though the shots weren't falling. So, they're going to have to shoot really well to do it. We know what this team is. We know that it's get the ball into Kofi, and if they double Kofi, we have 3-point shooters open, and it's that simple. That's the team, but it also takes effort and rebounding and loose balls and not fouling and everything else that Under was talking about.
Yeah,
matchups.
Yeah.
I think the matchups are going to be. We learned that last year. I think with Loyola. I think matchups are going to be huge in what we see on the other side of the court, because there's some teams that can match up with Illinois, and if they do it and Illinois is not hitting shots, then it could be a long night.
Yep, I think we'll see a lot from. I mean, who knows with Michigan now after what happened just now? We don't know who's going to be. Don't know who will be coaching on Sunday. We don't know who will be playing. But it was very telling to beat Rutgers by 35 here and then lose on the road.
Yeah.
It was very telling to really handle, Kofi went crazy against Maryland. Then they play the game at Maryland without Kofi and lose by 14 or whatever it was. So it'll be interesting to see the difference between the Michigan game without Dickinson in Champaign and then the Michigan game with somebody who can stand in there and hang with Kofi. That will be interesting. Now, are they going to have like 3 players suspended by Sunday? Who knows? And we'll have to see. But it is kind of interesting that look, when you get a first team All-American center, that's your team and that's who you are and that's going to define you, and it all has to start there. And so then when you're playing teams with bigs like Purdue, it's going to be a struggle and everybody else is going to have to step up.
Yeah. A couple more things for you. We saw the selection committee release their top 16 on Saturday. What'd you think of Illinois on the 3? Is that where you expected? I thought of 4.
I was not at all expecting that. I was thinking maybe even a 5 with the 7 losses.
Yep. That's what I thought. Maybe 2.
So I saw that the committee made some comments about how that the injuries did play into it, which they have done in the past. I think it's a smart way they're just trying to find the, whatever it is, the 34 at-large spots. I think it is 32 now. I can't remember the number of at-large spots. I think it's 34. But, they're trying to fill out those spots and they're trying to find the best teams for those at-larges. And it's true that Illinois would have probably beat Maryland if they had Kofi. And it's not wrong of the committee to just say, look, they do have everybody back and they had some injuries and we need to take that into account. Now, I thought it was very interesting that Illinois was, they numbered 1 through 16. Illinois was the last 3 seed and Wisconsin was the first 4 seed.
Yep.
So it was very interesting to me that they said, Illinois is ahead of Wisconsin, because you look, Wisconsin has like 9 quad 1 wins. Resume wise, Wisconsin has a better resume, but Illinois beat them head to head. And Illinois, some of those losses were because they were missing injured players and the Marquette game and everything else. So, that was very, very surprising that the committee did say, you know what, I think Illinois is better than Wisconsin. And so that's something we can follow the next 2-3 weeks to say, okay, well, now we know. And now it's kind of a known thing that as of this day, the committee saw Illinois better than Wisconsin. So play equal to or better than Wisconsin the next 3 weeks, and you're going to be ahead of Wisconsin when it comes to seeding. So very, very surprised and very interesting.
Yeah, I'm with you. After the Rutgers loss, I had almost prepared not to see them in the top 16. Logan made a good point that this 12 and 3 seed was after the Rutgers loss. So they didn't really overlook it, but that says a lot about what they think about this Illinois team. Spring football should be coming up. I know you get a smile on your face when you talk Illini football. I don't know when spring football starts. Have they announced that yet?
They haven't given the full schedule. Bielema mentioned it in his signing day press conference. He laid out the schedule that they have, I think, 8 weeks of conditioning. Then they start spring ball and then, whatever. So he laid it out, but they haven't listed the exact, is it Thursday of that week or whatever, but we're weeks away.
Yeah, they did say the spring games primetime Thursday night, right?
April 21st. Yep.
There you go. All right, so we're getting close. So can't let you leave without some sort of football talk. Just I know we don't know a whole lot because there's so much new with this team. What are you looking for in spring? And I know Bielema kind of closes spring down a little bit, so I don't know how much you'll see. But what are some of the things you're looking for in the next 6-8 weeks before summer starts?
Well, the main thing to me is the replacements on defense. So if you look at the seniors who left, you have Isaiah Gay, Rod Perry, and Owen Carney on the defensive line. You have Jake Hansen, who missed the second half of the season with injury, but also Kalen Tolson at linebacker who are gone. You got Tony Adams who's gone, but then you also have Kirby Joseph who declared for the draft. So with the 5 seniors leaving, Hansen, Adams, Gay, Carney, and Perry, and then you add in the 2 guys who declared for the draft in Tolson and Joseph, you're now missing the majority of that defense that played so well.
Yeah.
There are replacements. Calvin Hart started the first game in front of Tolson, so he probably would have been in front of him most of the season. You have other guys, Seth Coleman started 5 of the 12 games at the outside linebacker in front of Gay before Gay took over of the spot. So you have guys who are ready and even were starting last year, but still that's a fair bit. I mean, Kirby Joseph had 5 picks and was first team all Big Ten safety. You're missing Heart and Soul and Jake Hansen. You're missing your 2 ends that kind of dominated the last month in Carney and Gay. And so it'll be a big adjustment for the defense. So that's the biggest thing. And then on offense, you just kind of want to see, especially in the spring game, what's this new offense? They're going to keep it vanilla again. They're going to not show anything. It'll be very simple offense in the spring game. But at least you get to see what Barry Lunny is thinking about running.
Yeah. And something that just popped in my head that I want to get your thoughts on. Were you as surprised by the Palcho decision as I was? I didn't even think that was a possibility.
Yeah. I mean, the possibility was there only because he had a season with 4 or less games.
Okay.
So, there's that, Jamal Woods is coming back for a bonus season. He's doing that because one year he got injured in the 4th game and missed the rest of the season. I think it was 2018. Okay. So he could then take that season as a red shirt saying, look, I didn't play. Kendall Smith's the same way. He only played 2 games in 2019. He's coming back for 1 extra season just because he could use that one as a red shirt. But I didn't know, and I wasn't thinking that the NCAA would allow for 2020 to be used as that season because 2020 didn't count. So everybody, they just said, look, this season doesn't count. If you had 4 years to play 3 seasons on the field coming into 2020, you have that same number going the next year. It just doesn't count towards your eligibility. Well, so I thought it would be like, look, guys could maybe claim a redshirt year, but the NCAA would say, look, it was 2020. Everybody got a redshirt year. It doesn't matter. I was very surprised that they made the argument that he only played in 4 games in 2020 and should get a bonus year, and the NCAA agreed. So really good news for the offensive line. When you're only coming back with 1 starter, it's very scary. To have 2 is still scary, but much better. So it's a really big deal for the line.
It's huge.
Good stuff. Huge. Robert, Logan, you got anything else you want to ask him while we got him?
No, sir.
All right.
No, sir.
We're not gonna take up any more of your time then. Appreciate you jumping on, Robert. Keep grinding. Listen,
you got it.
Or read all this stuff at illiniboard.com. Robert, always nice talking. We'll see you next time.
Yes, I will.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Logan, again. Thank
You're
you for
welcome.
the tip. Thank you for the assist. Got me.
Glad I could help.
It got me to pay $60 for parking. I appreciate it. Yes,
how much was the ticket?
So I didn't want to sit upper deck because you could get upper deck for like $35. Yeah. And I just didn't want to do it. So I found they have kind of like 3 tiers to that stadium. And so I sat on the second tier. It was $71, I think I paid, something like that. So it wasn't bad.
Not bad at
all.
all.
71 for the ticket and $60 for parking.
Love it. Love it. I'm glad you got to see that. All right. Take care, Robert.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Let's move on to Logan's favorite subject, the college football playoff announced that they will not expand during the current contract. They will stay at 4 through 2025. Logan Lee, I open the floor to you.
I don't get it. I mean, I was reading Andy Staples, who covers a lot of this stuff for The Athletic, covers college football for The Athletic, wrote a nice column yesterday, basically saying this makes no sense for the Pac-12 and the ACC. And I agree. For the Big Ten, you can make some financial arguments where in terms of TV contracts and TV revenue, that it makes sense for the Big Ten to maybe not want to go to this right now. I just don't understand it. There are a lot of things at play here that are well above my pay grade. So I can't sit here and say like, I know everything and I know how this should be. But what's the point of sticking this thing out with 4 teams? You're just literally every conference outside of the Big Ten and the SEC is just agreeing to essentially just fold when it comes to their playoff chances. I mean, the SEC is going to continue to get 1 to 2 teams in everything, all of these things. The Big Ten is always going to have a team in this thing. Now you have a Big 12 that is falling apart because they lost their 2 biggest properties. You have a Pac-12 that hasn't put a team in the playoff in a decade. You have the ACC, who, when Clemson isn't good, literally has nothing. Why they wouldn't want to do this, I don't understand. This just means more money for them. What if all they seem to care about is money? Like, why would they not do this? I don't get it. I don't understand. I mean, I know why the fans want it. I know why I want it. I do not understand why the schools don't want it. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure because I think this goes through the ADs and stuff, right?
Yeah, it's the AD. Yeah, the ADs and
I'm not
presidents
sure,
and all those people are going to have a say in this.
I'm not sure what the holdup is. I'm with you. I don't know why they need to wait or why they think 4 is the right number. I don't know that we've seen those answers on why.
The SEC doesn't really care. The SEC is going to
because they're going to get 2 teams.
They're going to get 2
teams
in the 4, or if you go to 12, they're going to get 3 in that. So they don't care. The Big Ten is always going to get a team in it. Plus, they have money, TV dollars on the line coming up soon, so they're going to get their money regardless. The others, the ACC continues to try to hold out for Notre Dame, but like if this happens, if this eventually goes to 12. Notre Dame has 0 reason to join the ACC.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It baffles me why they don't want to do this, but we'll continue to watch a 4-team playoff with Alabama and Georgia and whatever other 2 teams they want to invite to their party. And it'll always end up being one of those 2 teams playing for the national championship more often than not.
I mean, an argument that I saw when it was released was the semifinals are already blowouts anyway, so why add 8 more teams? Well, yeah, but those games are going to be good. There's only blowouts when they play Alabama and Georgia. so yeah, I think 12 is the right perfect number, but we're not going to get that till at least 2026 because the contract runs through 2025. Moving on to the professional ranks. NBA All-Star Weekend, we're in the midst of it. The All-Star Game is tonight, Sunday night. So we've seen the Rising Stars Challenge. We've seen the 3-point contest, the skill contest, and the dunk contest. And I'll just put it out there. It's the worst Saturday night All-Star Weekend that I've ever seen. The dunk contest sucked. There was one good dunk from Obi Toppin, his final dunk. 3-point contest, I didn't even pay attention to be completely honest. I know Karl Anthony Towns won, but I don't know how many he made. I don't know what happened after Levine missed. I think he only had 14. So after he got knocked out, I stopped watching, and the skills competition was boring as all hell. So hopefully the game makes up for it tonight. But we did have Io in the Rising Stars Challenge on Friday night. Did you watch that?
I did watch Friday night. I did not watch last night. The Saturday stuff is stuff. If I don't watch it live, if I hear good things, I'll go back and watch it again. I'll go watch it later. But I heard nothing but awful things about it, so I just never bothered to watch it. But yes, I did watch Friday. It was kind of weird doing the whole 4 teams thing. Played a little like tournament style, I guess.
Yeah.
I had it on. I wasn't fully paying that much attention. I couldn't tell you what IO did in it necessarily. But it was so cool to see that he was in the mix for that, involved in that. Just, it's been one hell of a story for him to, Chicago kid, goes to Illinois, falls to the second round of the draft, get picked by the Bulls, and then due to injuries and things, really emerges as a all rookie team type of player. So to see him honored and being able to play in that game was definitely really cool.
Yeah, I sold Christy as it was happening. First of all, he had 5 early points for Team Peyton. He was on Gary Payton's team. He hit a 3, and then he drove and hit his patented, like, not quite a layup, but not quite like right about the block. He threw it high off of the glass. I don't know that he scored anymore, but he had a couple assists. He had a decent game, but his couple of the other guys on his team were trying to show off a little bit, so he didn't get involved too much.
I wasn't giving it my full attention, as I said, but it felt to me like the first game, because there was the 2 semifinals, I guess you could call it. Yeah. The first game felt very much like an all-star game. That was very just back and forth, everybody doing whatever they want, dunk after dunk after dunk, like just like a normal all-star game feels. The second game like felt more like an actual basketball game. Was I watching the same game that you were? Was I even like noticing that? Like, I just kind of how I felt like they were actually like going for it in that same.
I would agree with that.
Not the championship round or whatever, but like the second semifinal, I just felt like it was a very different style of game than the first one. But maybe again, I wasn't giving it my full attention. So, but that's just from what I did notice. I just felt like that was kind of that those guys seemed to really want to go after it a little bit more than the first teams did.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. Cade Cunningham was in the first game. Cole Anthony was in the first game. Desmond Bain. A couple other big name guys. Not Illinois. Io's team had Lonzo Ball on his team. He had Scotty Barnes on his team. They were much smaller. The other team had 4 guys taller than 6'10", and Io's team had, I don't know if they had anyone that tall. So it was contrasting styles. But Io's team did lose in the semi, so he didn't play in the championship. So we kind of tuned it out. But I told Christy during it, and obviously his career is nowhere near complete. And maybe it's the bias, because we all know that we're all biased towards Io, and I'm a big Io fan. I mean, I feel like if he has a good career, like this is a movie script type story.
Yeah.
Like a kid from Chicago, top 50 recruit in the country, commits to an Illinois program, his state program, who hasn't been to the tournament in more than 5 years, really down on their luck program, commits there, turns them into a power again, a 1 seed in the tournament, but gets bounced early, goes pro, gets completely overlooked, falls to the second round, where his hometown Bulls take him in the second round. He turns out to be an all rookie player. Like, it's just, there's too much feel good potential there for it not to turn into something. Not saying it will, or it could. I mean, I feel like they're making movies about stupider stuff now, but I just feel like it has the potential to be a movie script at some point. The dude didn't have to leave the borders of Illinois, and turns into what he is. So
it's certainly building into a script. We'll have to see how the rest of his career plays out before I'm ready to commit to a movie deal. But it certainly, has the makings of it in the early stages. Absolutely.
For sure. All right. All-Star game is tonight. So I don't know that this episode might be released before it starts, but I doubt it. If you're watching on YouTube, you see both of us repping our respective MLB teams, because spring training should have started. It was supposed to start 4 or 5 days ago. Obviously, that is not happening because the owners have locked out the players, and that is still ongoing. So no true updates there. I did see multiple national reporters say that both sides are feeling the pressure now. They're expected to meet starting on Monday. They're expected to meet at least once a day, maybe a couple times a day starting Monday to try and get something hammered out. The absolute latest that a deal could happen is I think they gave March 1st for the season to open on time. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I mean, to me, that sounds like it's pushing it, but that could be. I mean, that they could say that. I mean, the season is supposed to start March 30th
or 31st, something like
think.
that.
And I mean, it's not just going to spring training. I mean, there's still a ton of free agents that haven't been signed.
Yeah.
So the players aren't going to like it. They were already unhappy with the abbreviated spring training they got during the COVID season. So another abbreviated spring training, they probably won't like that either. If that's what they say, then I'll believe it, but I don't really know that I would agree to that. I think that's probably pushing it, but
yeah.
Let's just hope they get something figured out soon.
On a note related to what we talked about 20 minutes ago, Chester Frazier just tweeted this GIF. If you're watching on YouTube, it's Steve Urkel, like shadow boxing his. Is that his dad? I wasn't.
No, it's the neighbor. Guy.
Neighbor,
I mean,
yeah,
Winslow's.
Chester Frazier's funny on social media. But yes, I believe the deadline was March 1st. If not March 1st, it was right around that area for opening day to happen. But like Logan said, the majority of free agents didn't sign before the lockout happened. There were some: Corey Seager, Max Scherzer, Javi Baez. Like there were a couple that signed before. Didn't Javi sign somewhere?
I don't think so.
I thought he signed with Detroit.
Did he?
I thought he did.
Oh yeah, he did. I forgot about that. Oh wait, did he? I don't remember now.
You should know.
Yeah, I think he did. It's been so long. It has been so long since any of this stuff happened. I don't even remember. Yes, he did sign with the Tigers. I'd forgotten all about that. Yes.
There are dozens of high-profile free agents that have not signed yet. So you got to do that, and then everyone has to report for spring training, and you have to play some spring training games, and then the season will start. And speaking of, they did announce that the first weekend or first handful of spring training games have been canceled already. So even if they get a deal done on Monday, you're not going to have spring training games until the second week of March, I believe. So things aren't looking good, but it does sound like both sides sense the urgency. I just feel like both sides are so far apart that it's going to take another week or two to get something done.
Back when this whole thing started, I believe we had a conversation on the show, and I made a comment like I wasn't too worried about it then, but I said check back with me again. I probably said something like mid-February, and if we still haven't resolved it, I'll be concerned. We're to that point. I'm a little concerned.
Yep. It's
just frustrating. It's frustrating for fans and for everything else. I mean, I trust that they'll get something done, but it's annoying that they can't seem to figure it out. And we're the ones that have to. I mean, thankfully we still have college basketball, but once that ends.
For now, yeah.
It's
luckily that runs through April.
I don't know.
So
yeah.
Luckily that runs through the first weekend of April. But yeah, it's dire right now. We'll see what happens. Hopefully we get something soon.
I forgot all about Javi signing with the Tigers. Like that.
Are you gonna cry?
No, it's fine. That doesn't bother me. Like I'm kind of happy for him. I just honestly I'd forgotten all about it. Like that felt like so long ago.
I feel like Corey Seager, Max Scherzer, Javi Baez, Cardinals signed Steven Matz. Rangers got Marcus Semien as well.
Stroman
to the Cubs. You're right. Yeah.
There were a few. Still Carlos Correa, Trevor Story, Clayton Kershaw, Nick Castellanos, Chris Bryant. There's a bunch of guys out there. That's Kyle Schwarber, Anthony Rizzo, Freddie Freeman.
Yep.
I mean, the list goes on and on of guys that still haven't signed yet.
Yeah, there's a ton. Crap, there was something else right then that I was gonna going to talk about, and I can't remember. It sounds like the Cubs are the favorite for Correa.
No. Where are you hearing that?
I feel like the Cubs are the favorite for Correa.
Don't say that to me. don't say that and try to get my hopes up. Okay,
I would hate that.
And we talked about this at one point. Like, the signing of Marcus Stroman tells me that the Cubs are actually going to try to do something this year, but I just don't know that I see them going on Correa. It would help. It would help in a lot of ways. Because I mean, they need a bat and they need an infield glove, so he would answer both of those things. But him going to Scott Boras, I'm not optimistic that's happening.
We've got
could be.
We've got Juwan Howard at the podium. Do we want to put the sound on here, or
can
no?
we do that? Sure.
I have no idea.
Go for it.
All right, hold on. I'm going to play it into my mic here.
I didn't like the timeout being called, and I'll be totally honest with you. I thought it was, not necessary at that moment, especially being a large lead. And then before it had the timeout, called 3 seconds, 4 seconds ago. I thought that was, what I felt wasn't fair to our guys. So
but you wanted the game to get done. Why keep the press on against Wisconsin's backups at that point?
It wasn't a press. It was just 5 pressure defense, man-to-man. That's what 5 is for us.
But if you're guarding full court, that's a press. All right. So there's Juwan Howard's explanation of what happened. If you're listening to this and don't know, just look up Juwan Howard, Wisconsin, whatever. You'll find the video of him. And I've seen one. It's not a punch. He throws his arm out there, but he does open his fist.
It's
like
he
went to
fist grab.
Yeah, he went to like grab the Wisconsin assistant's head, but neither here nor there because it's unacceptable, especially for a head coach to do. So it sounds like Howard just wasn't happy with a timeout that Greg Gard called, but the coach that's what the coach does. Call timeout. You have timeouts. If you want to call timeout. Whatever. He should be suspended.
He's not happy with how his season's going.
Yep. That's exactly what it is.
Simple.
Anything else sports related? No.
I don't know. What would it be? I don't feel like this show's very long. So
I got one more thing. not sports, but I texted you last week. We watched Tick Tick Boom.
Oh,
and then we immediately went into Rent.
You watched Rent. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
It was thoroughly enjoyable. I had a good time. Christy, I don't know if she lost interest or just wasn't following or what, but I don't think she liked it as much as me. I think she enjoyed it, but I thought it was great. A good musical is right at the top of my list of stuff to watch. So I liked it. Didn't know who Jonathan Larson was before I watched it, honestly, or before this came out. But then I watched Rent. It was my first time watching Rent from start to finish. Like I knew Seasons of Love and some of and what it was about and all that stuff. But we watched the movie with Idina Menzel and Rosario Dawson and Taye Diggs.
Taye Diggs.
Yep.
Anthony Rapp. Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, that was our night. Monday or Tuesday.
That's great.
It was like right after I think it was Tuesday. We watched that. But yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah, Tick Tick Boom is great. It's one of my favorite movies of the year. Did you watch In the Heights?
Yes.
Did we have this discussion? You did watch In the Heights? Okay. It was a good year for musicals, I think. West Side Story was
haven't
good.
watched that yet.
It's not my favorite. It's kind of it's a story that I don't know. I don't really care that much for it, but it's really good. I mean, it's nominated for a lot and everything else. So it's good. It was a good year for musicals. So Tick Tick Boom was right up there. I enjoy Rent. The musical version of Rent's not like the greatest thing in the world, but it's the same cast. So it's good. It's enjoyable. Good music in that too. Good stuff.
Sorry, I'm like enthralled with what's with Twitter right now, talking about Juwan Howard. How I Met Your Father. Are you still watching How I Met Your Father?
Yes. Yeah. It's growing on me. It's growing on me. I don't think it's the greatest, but they did confirm there's gonna be a second season.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. I am keeping up with that. I'm not totally caught up, but I've been watching Pam and Tommy.
Haven't watched that yet.
It's interesting. It's interesting. They make some choices.
Was it like 20 years ago or this week or 30 years ago this week or something? Because TNT has a documentary on it now.
I don't know the reason behind it. I feel like sometimes people just try to jump on the train. So like when Disney or Fox, whoever it is, Hulu announced that they were doing the story, it was originally a movie. But then TNT must have jumped on it. I don't remember what year it was. It's the early 90s, obviously, but so it might be like, I guess it could be the 30-year anniversary of it or something. I don't know, but it's good. It's certainly interesting. But yes, How I Met Your Father, I've been enjoying that a little more than I thought I would. I didn't really watch any movies this week, so
the characters in Pam and Tommy look like identical.
Yeah.
Sebastian Stan and Lily Collins, is that her name? Lily James? Lily James.
James.
Lily Collins is Emily in Paris, I think. That looks good. I'll probably watch it at some point. Celebrity Big Brother, I'm not quite caught up. I was, and then I've fallen 2 or 3 episodes behind on Celebrity Big Brother. It's like you said a couple weeks ago. It's there. It's like it's not good. Lamar Odom doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know how to play. No. But all right. Do you have anything else?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. Illinois plays Thursday nights. Post-game show is up in the air for that one. We might have some conflicts for that, so we might not have a post-game show for this week. But it's a big game. It's a game Illinois should win, probably be favored by 4 or 5 points, I would think. But yeah, like you said when we were talking, 3 of the last 4 are home games, which is a good sign. And the one road game is at Michigan, who will probably be shorthanded, at least a head coach next Sunday. Anything else?
No, I think we're good.
All right. For Logan Lee, I'm Craig Choate. That's episode 55 of No One Asked Us. It's been a year, boys and girls. We've been doing this for a year. We really appreciate you listening and tuning in to any episode that you have tuned in. If you've tuned into all 55 plus post game, if you've only tuned into one, if this is your first one, we really appreciate you joining us, and we wanted to keep doing this. So give us your support, and we'll continue to vent and just vamp for hours upon end about random stuff.
So are we doing it? We have nothing else to do.
No one asked us to, but here we are.
Here we are.
For Logan Lee, I'm Craig Choate. That's episode 55 of No One Asked Us. We'll see you next time.
Toodles.